When I go shopping for art supplies, I don't always have a plan as to what I want to get. I kind of just go in because I want to see if there's anything interesting that's new or I didn't see before to add to the arsenal and try out. And that's what I did this time. I went off to Michael's and browsed around the pencil crayon section because honestly, I feel like that's the medium that I'm going to dabble in most often. I'm probably going to get branded as a pencil crayon enthusiast, but I'm just an art enthusiast. And that, today, you already know, because it's in the title, below or above the video, wherever YouTube decides to put it next, is the Zebra Sensations colored pencils. The first thing I wanted to do was put these things to the test, so I laid down a colored sketch using them, which would hopefully completely vanish by the time I was finished coloring it in. Now I put these up against my Kohinoor polycolored colored pencils because, well, they're my favorite so far, and because they are the best pencil crayons that I've tried so far, and I really wanted to compare them together. Not because I wanted to see which one was better than the other, because I've already basically decided that out of all the pencil crayons that I've bought to try, the Polycolor are 100% the best. While doing this, I made sure that I learned the best techniques for both separate sets of pencil crayons because one is wax-based, one is oil-based, they're pigmented differently, and they're also a completely different physical representation of putting color down on a page, so each of them had a very specific way they worked best to blend. So here we are with the final results of the test that I did between the Polycolor and the Sensation mechanical colored pencils. Now obviously the Polycolor is clearly far more saturated and has more depth to it when in comparison to the Sensations, but I think both look pretty good. Now when it comes to the amount of effort that I was putting in, I put equal effort, and by that I mean that I used the exact same amount of pencil pressure when coloring and shading both sides. Other than that, I think they are actually pretty good for doing the colored sketch because there is no leftover residue of that colored sketch that I put down. It completely vanished. I didn't use pencil whatsoever, didn't erase anything, and it turned out absolutely perfect. So I think that's what these are going to probably end up being, a method of me doing a colored sketch for a somewhat lineless style artwork, which is what this is, and I've never done lineless art before, and I'm actually extremely happy with the way it turned out. Now before we get into a final, more official art piece done with these only, I do want to talk about what actually made me a wee bit disappointed in them right off the bat. While I purchased these for $15, they were on clearance, a regular price of around $40 Canadian, which is actually the same regular price as this 12-pack of Kohinoor Polycolor colored pencils. Saying Polycolor colored pencils is blah, 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 blah. Now I know that this is a 12-pack of colors and this is a 24-pack of colors, but at the end of the day, you don't really need a ginormous range of colors to create a nice piece of art. And there are some trade-offs that make me like these far more than these, and it has nothing to do with the color range. When it comes to these, yes, they need to be sharpened, which means you need to have a pencil sharpener and something to catch all the shavings. So that makes it a little bit less portable, but how big is a sharpener and something to catch the shavings anyway? So let's hop down and do a full art piece using only the Zebra Sensations. And what's a better thing to draw than a foam popsicle? This is a body scrubber I found at the dollar store and I just thought it was adorable. I've never scrubbed my body with it and I don't plan to. Well, I might eat it. That doesn't taste very good. The proportions of this drawing aren't great, but that's mostly a result of me having no experience with drawing from references, as most of what I've done over the last 20 years has been stuff off the top of my head. Now, getting accurate color representation using these things was honestly not that easy. I got close enough to say that I could follow the values a little bit. Not to mention, I find these colored pencils incredibly streaky. I don't have nearly as many problems using other wax-based colored pencils or oil-based colored pencils, but these things just seem to leave a lot of lines in my coloring, whether I'm using straight up and down motion or circular motion. I can't seem to get rid of that streaky look. And while this may be a result of my technique or lack of practice with these specific colored pencils, I didn't seem to have nearly as much trouble avoiding streakiness with the Polycolor or some of the other colored pencils that I've used. And again, I'm not saying that these are bad, they just don't suit my style of coloring. For conceptual stuff, these would work because you don't need to have perfect color fill. All you really need to do is represent colors and have a rough idea of what your concept is trying to portray. When it comes down to trying to make a piece that's fully colored, saturated, and has a lot of depth, really smooth blending and stuff, I just don't think that these would fit the bill for me. They do layer, but they don't layer very nicely. There's a lot more streakiness in these shadows I tried to add on top before I even started burnishing the page down. And with that, it's time to give you my personal conclusion on these things before this video runs on for too long. Now, I'm going to give you the pros and cons, but I want to clarify that these are a personal opinion, not a fact, and definitely not the same opinion that everyone else is going to share. This is just based on my personal experience and what I like to use. Now, obviously these things were intended for a target audience, like a specific target audience, and clearly I'm not that target audience. But even still, I'm going to try and be as fair as I possibly can while also explaining what I did like about them and what I didn't. So let's get into the pros first. The first pro is that they are lightweight. So if you're someone that struggles with arthritis or fibromyalgia or some other ailment that makes using a heavy art supply fatiguing over time, these would definitely be something that you would find comfortable because they are incredibly light. Pro number 2 is that they don't require a sharpener. With traditional colored pencils, if the lead breaks or you've used up all the lead, they basically become useless until you sharpen them again. And these things don't require that, so it makes it fairly easy to just carry these with you and not have to worry about anything other than the simple sketching and coloring process. Pro number 3 is that they have a really nice shape to them. They're triangular, so they seem to fit a little bit more naturally into my grip, which is why I liked those dollar store pencil crayons so much. So in terms of the comfort of actually holding them, I think the triangular shape, especially for the size of these things, is a perfect choice. Pro number 4 is that they have decent color. And I'm not just talking about the amount of pigment, where drawing lightly you still get enough color out and pressing hard you get the full amount of the pigment out, but I'm also talking about the color range. Having 24 different colors is a really great option. If you only have 12, while it's still possible to actually put down an entire range of color, it does help to have transition shades, and a 24 pack gives you a lot more of those transition shades than a regular old 12 pack would. Con number 1 is that they're a little bit too light for me. I like an art supply when it has a little bit of gusto and weight to it because it just feels more sturdy, more durable, feels like it'll last longer, and it's also generally just more comfortable to use. Con number 2 is that despite not requiring a sharpener, it doesn't have one. Once again, like I've said before, when doing fine details or putting color down, I prefer to have a nice razor point on my colored pencils. And these things, unless of course I go out and buy a sharpener for those leads, don't give me that option, and that's a deal breaker for me. Con number 3 is that they're not incredibly common. Well, they're pretty easy for me to find online. If I'm in a pinch and I need to get a new pack of these because let's say the mechanical pencil itself breaks or I run out of lead, then I'm going to have to order it online and wait for it to get here. If I'm in a real pinch and these happen to be my daily driver, I would like the option of just going out and buying some. And from what I hear, the Michaels, which happens to be the only art shop in my area that seems to carry them, is also going to be not carrying them anymore. I don't know if that's 100% true. And con number 4 is the color range. While I did say in pro number 4 that it had decent color in terms of pigment and having more transition shades is nice, I don't personally like the choice of colors that they picked for these. Now, my main issue with the color range isn't a lack of blues or a lack of oranges or whatever. It's more that it seems like some of the in-between transition shades don't fit well, I guess. It seems to me that the middle range blue, because they have a light, a medium, and a dark blue in this pack, it seems like the center blue, which would be the transition shade between the light and the dark, is different in terms of color temperature and possibly even in hue a little bit. It just doesn't seem to fit superbly, not at least not in the way that I like, between the light and the dark blue. And I've noticed this with some of the other colors as well, specifically the greens and the more pinks and purples. I just don't feel like the transition shades were thought out completely. As a consumer, I'm going to have my opinions, and sometimes I think I might have ideas that could help better the product, and so that's what this portion of the video is. In terms of the color range of the Zensations as a whole, 24 seems to be the maximum amount of colors that you can get from them, which is not the most disappointing thing in the world, but it kind of sucks when you consider con number 4, which is the odd choices of color temperatures and hues for some of these colors. What I mean by this is you could offer, let's just say for the sake of argument, 3 different 24 packs. The 24 pack of earthy colors, the 24 pack of vibrant colors, and the 24 pack of very standard colors, perhaps pastels or even desaturated colors. But then there's also the option of selling 6 or 12 packs of blues, of greens, of yellows, of pinks, etc. What this would mean is that you're giving people the option of having 6 different shades of the same color. You could essentially have 2 light blues, 2 medium blues, and 2 dark blues, one of each being on the warmer end of the scale and one being on more of the colder end of the scale. And if you really want to get crazy, you could even offer packs that have a warm, a neutral, and a cold version of each color in both the lights, the mediums, and the darks, and maybe even the epic darks or the super lights. Now again, these are just ideas. I feel like, yes, that would cost money to manufacture all these extra colors and stuff, but at the end of the day, it would put you, I feel, a little bit more onto the market because your color range would be so much bigger that professionals and enthusiasts would feel more comfortable and confident in jumping into your product and having a massive range of colors to use, which means they could do all sorts of different styles and whatnot. Other than maybe making the LEDs a little bit softer, that is the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for putting up with me for the last 15 to 16 minutes. You have been incredible. I have been Dragon Boy. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.